Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. In next 10 minutes, you'll realize that I'm not a very good professional public speaker, but I would not apologize for being an artist. At 13, I tried to be a painter, but somehow I was very miserable, so I had to give up that very quickly. And I got my first camera when I was 13, and it's been my lifelong passion since then. My father, he's an economist, and at a very, very early age, we started moving. He worked in about 20 countries. That meant that I was exposed to a lot of diversity and cultures across about 20 countries. My political antennas were sharpened at a very early age, partly to do with his sustainable development work, and a lot to do with the kind of schools I went to. One of my first schools was an international school in East Africa next to Kilimanjaro. And that's where I started learning photography. And I realized that photography is an amazingly powerful tool. It can actually pass on that message in a very different way. And then, of course, I went to art schools, I went to film schools. But over a period of time, I realized that commercial photography was okay because you got to pay your bills. But if I wanted to be an artist, I didn't really want to be art for art's sake. But for me, art has to be for larger social change, working on issues which are not necessarily highlighted in mainstream media for various reasons, political, corporate, all kinds of issues. I also, over a period of time, realized that my work had to get more and more focused on issues which I was getting directly exposed to. And last 10 years of my work has been really about conflict issues. And what I mean by conflict is not going to war, but for me, conflict is about this whole race for modernization, consumption, urbanization, energy needs. So it's about this modernity versus traditional communities, traditional way of living, especially in these areas where people don't even have basic electricity, but their lands are all ripped apart for coal, or the waters are polluted for supplying it to the urban part of cities or urban part of the country. I also felt that being a spectator photographer is no solution to it, because I can very easily go to these remote areas, shoot some pictures of some dying community, and bring it to New York, London, or wherever, and have this grand exhibition. Everybody writes about it. I make a book out of it. I really believe that it's got to be more about capacity building. It's got to be more about building blocks. It's about income generation. It's about getting involved in these issues right to what the real problems are. 5 years back, I was on a mission on a World War II road. There's not much of that road, but I was driving from southwest part of China, from Kunming, through upper Burma into northeast part of India. And I came across this huge pits of coal mines. I mean, I'd seen mines before, but this was quite unbelievable that for miles and miles, it was open cast mines, and I don't know how many of you have seen those, but they just go and blow up mountain tops. It's not that they're digging inside the ground. And what it does is it destroys the river, the water bodies, the rivers are polluted, the forests are gone, and I could still see these communities living between all this. So I've been working with one particular community. It's a Buddhist tribe. They're originally from Burma. They live in the Indian side, and there are only 1,500 of them. And I started working with one particular village of 147. And that village, it's called Funning. And this is the project what I'm talking about here. I'll show you a small little film, which will just give you some idea in terms of what all I have done there and what the village looks like. Fortunately, I have a little clip to go with. OK. So this is the Stillwell Road. This is the World War II road. This is from the Indian side, actually. And then you come across this village, which is off the highway. And this is a river, which is in the monsoon you can't go across, but winters you can actually drive over it. And I helped set up an ecotourism project there, ecotourism lodge. This is the lodge. It's got solar panels. There's no electricity in this village. That's the kitchen out on the outside. These are the kids who actually go to school now. The other thing is I'm not an anthropologist, but one thing I really felt was to document their way of life, where it was music, dance, weddings, culture, and especially because it was such a small community, it was changing right in front of me. This is like where the children actually go to school now on this little boat. It's kind of strange to go to school on a boat. That's the monastery which I finished building now. And these are the coal mines. This will give you an idea what I'm talking about. They're just huge open cast mines. The water, you can imagine what it is like. And this is back to the village. This is the textile they do there. And this is how I did the portraits, what you saw in the beginning. They're very huge. They're over 7 feet tall. That's how the entire project was documented. Now, the point I'm trying to make here is when I say about capacity building, in this community, when I went in there, I got some seed money, and with a bunch of people, we developed a small ecotourism lodge, which is 100% owned, run, and operated by the tribals. I also, when we started getting tourists, we realized that some of us out there actually feel very guilty when we take these flights across the planet, because the huge amount of aviation pollution we leave behind, our carbon footprint, what they say. So I set up a small carbon footprint exchange program where the tourists can actually do is they can buy a certain number of trees, which the tribals would raise. And in exchange, of course, they get some money. And I would take pictures of those trees and send them back to the tourists. So wherever they are, they can see how their tree is doing. So that's one part of it. Education program, these kids, they go to English-speaking school now. There are quite a few of them. The monastery, which I finished building, that has added income to the families because they have these annual festivals there where other Buddhist villages come there and they donate rice and money and all that. More importantly, the recent thing which I've started working on is textile. As we know that textile is probably one of the oldest craft human beings have known. And unfortunately, modernity and all that has changed that. In this village, they have been doing weaving for generations. But now with the flooding of garments coming, textile coming from factories in China and India and Bangladesh and all that, that has kind of almost killed that cottage industry. So I've set up this small little weaving center. So every 7 weeks, I go with lots of empty suitcases. And I fill them up, and I bring them back either to Dubai or to New York or wherever. And there are a lot of people who actually really value hand-woven stuff. So this is a little exercise of textile revival, if I can say. The example I'm giving you about funning is about this village is not about some obscure tribe in some obscure place, but actually these kind of communities are across the planet. There are marginalized communities across the planet, whether it's developed part of the world or underdeveloped part of the world. For example, I'm working on another project in East Africa, which is on the albinos. Again, it's something which is more about empowerment, it's more about education, and obviously some form of income generation. Going back to the photography part where I started with, my exhibitions are not typical photography exhibitions, but they are multimedia experiences. So like this particular thing, what you saw in the beginning, these are really massive images, and they sit in this total darkness. It's like a metaphor of a coal mine. And you walk in there, and you have the soundscape, which you heard. Those are the real sounds of that village, because that village, though it gives out so much of coal, it doesn't have electricity. So what I have is the night sounds of the village, which plays as a soundscape into the show. And then there's a film which goes with it at the same time. So it's more like an experience. I've had the show. It's going in spring to London, and I'm hoping to bring it here to Dubai, hopefully soon. So the point I'm trying to make is that as an artist, how much are you for your art, or are you really interested in the larger cause? Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you.